For all the people who are going to be watching this meander or talk or thought, I want to thank you. I want to ask you to please stay to the end and not just listen and view this. I want you to please take on board that what you're going to hear is very, very, very critically important to yourself, to your family, to my family, and to the nation as a whole. And I'm speaking specifically to an organisation that we all hold absolutely close to our hearts. An organisation that was founded by beautiful intent, by wonderful individuals, and that organisation is the National Health Service. We've just come through like 3 years of unprecedented times of fear. We've gone through unprecedented trials of being like locked in the houses and for being like just absolutely terrified. And people will look to the NHS as their friend, as their sanity in a world that seemed to have gone insane. And we're 3 years down the road from when that first took place, and people are now afraid. A lot of people are afraid to go to an NHS hospital, and that is absolutely heartbreaking. I know it's heartbreaking for the people who work within the NHS, the beautiful nurses, the wonderful doctors, the care in nature. Their whole lives can be revolved around looking at the latest research, looking at the latest journals, seeing what the latest Lancet says, seeing what the superiors say, and taking all that on board so they can best benefit the people that they've dedicated themselves to helping and to making well, because we are good people at heart and everybody loves the physician. There's times when the doctor used to come to your house at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in the sleet, the snow and the rain, and there'd be a cup of coffee there for him, and he'd be putting a stethoscope on your little child's chest, and he was revered and he was loved and he was respected. And that is the attitude and that our generation has carried through for the NHS. But something's happened over the last 30-40 years. I don't follow the intricacies of the politics of the NHS at all, but I know like the public-private partnerships that have been brought into existence, that have brought big business and corporations in to have the control and voice, and to have the power and to have the finances to dictate what the policies are for this cherished, much loved institution that we call the NHS. It's the National Health Service. Just plain observations. When I was young, there were no shop mobility superstores. I didn't know anybody that was autistic. I didn't know anybody that had cancer. All this stuff now that this generation, I'm 65, and people that work in the NHS now have been brought up, and all you've known around you is sickness and illnesses and diseases that seemingly, or what you were educated and trained by this institution, these public-private partnerships with the money and their interests, is that the way to get these situations revolved, like Alzheimer's and cancer and diabetes and pre-diabetic, and that is that you must prescribe medications, that there are solutions. We have the solutions. That said, if that was accurate, where has all this illness come from? In 40 years, we've seen cancer just explode. So they've had to reinvent and redraw the scales to show the rise in it. We are falling apart in front of everybody's eyes. Your friends and your neighbours and possibly even yourself are swallowing medications because you know you're falling apart also. Your family, your nans, your uncles all falling to bits, and yet we just carry on doing the same thing, going to the same people. So who are the people that are in charge of this system, who are handing down this so-called health education to our health experts and our health professionals? Who are running these training schools? Who is writing these curriculums? Are these people who are super healthy? Are these people that are super fit, that they know all these different mechanisms and these different technologies to make the human body perform as it should? Is that who we believe are in charge of these institutions? Because they don't know anything about health whatsoever. We labour under it with a problem because we haven't seen the whole movie, and that's the condition that we're in. You may be in your 30s, your 20s, your 50s, but we've come into the end of the last stages of a movie that's been running for 70, 80 years. And it'll go back to the inception of the NHS, with people were looking at the children with rickets and the poverty and the disease and the needless infant mortality rates and the tuberculosis, lice. We were in a bad situation, and good people stepped in, and they just could not allow this to continue, and they wanted to put resources, they wanted to pick the best of the bunch, and they wanted to bring them together so we could make our country healthy, so we could see our children and our babies thrive, and our grandmothers and our granddads with big smiling faces and rosy cheeks when they were in their 80s. That's what we were hoping for, because that's what it was like 50 or 60 years previous to that, when we ate proper food, when we used to grow our own food. There was no shop mobility superstores then. You didn't see many walking sticks back then. You didn't see many wheelchairs back then either. If you go back and look at any old movies, you go and look at any old series, any old documentaries, and you look at the thousands and thousands of people that may be up and down a high street, and you pick the Zimmer frames out, you pick the people that's mind look like they don't know where they're going, like they need care and hospitalisation. Because I'll tell you now, there aren't any. This is a phenomenon that's happened right in front of our eyes, right in plain sight, and we've missed it completely because we've had our minds captured, and we've had our sight taken away. We've had our intellects dumbed down by a TV, by a radio, by the newspapers, by this totality of this information that sadly we've accepted to be true, coming from the best of intentions, from the nicest and most compassionate of people. But that just is not true, because we're devastated. Just through the last 3 years, the devastation that was caused through the fear, through the lies, through the deceit, through the evil intent of these individuals that have set themselves up behind the scenes, who make all the important decisions, decide what gets financed and what doesn't. And then you've got the interfaces, the nodes, if you like, that come onto your TV screen like Matt Hancock, giggling, nervous, telling people how frightening it is, while they all go off to have parties and celebrate the fact, the laughing and the joking, as the heart attack rate went through the roof, as blood clots went through the roof, as children were dropping dead, as sports star after sports star on TV was dropping dead. What does that say about the population as a whole? Now, for you in the NHS, you have your own reporting systems, the yellow card reaction scheme. When any procedures or anything are put out to the general public, that any adverse reactions are to be reported back upon, so that it can be stopped, it can be cancelled straight away. Well, that was all thrown by the window. That all went by the board. It was reported, it was written down, and they knew straight away that the heart attack rates were going through the roof. I've got friends who dropped dead. I've got members of my family who dropped dead. Every one of them had took that they believed the lies, that they'd listened to Matt Hancock and Chris Whitty and Boris Johnson frighten the life out of them, which is what he said in his emails he was going to do. They terrified the population into getting a jab in their arm that's killed hundreds of thousands of them to date. A lot of them are carrying it round now. It's a time bomb waiting to happen. And they've corrupted our health service. The general public clapped for you. They were banging pots and pans for you. They love you. You haven't stood up for us. You still, the GPs now have still got these, come and get you, come and get this, come and get that. Because we know that you get well paid for it. And it's published and it's known and it's factual. And if you could step outside of the TV world and go and please do some research for yourself, you'll find that all of these autisms, all of these ADHDs, all of these Alzheimer's, all of these heart conditions run exactly in parallel from when they brought them out years and years ago in the 90s. There are top scientific people who worked on them, who were forecasting that you cannot give these to human beings. It will cause blood clots, it will cause cancer, and they just do it anyway. And we need the NHS to stand up, because we need you to do what's in your heart. I'm talking to the doctors and the nurses, not the people who make your decisions. Those people you've got to come and realise are absolutely evil beyond belief. That they come smiling, they come with an Oxford accent maybe, they are as evil as you could ever imagine. Basically, in the minds of this country, virtually destroy the cherished institution. Because that's what they do. They kill, they steal, and they destroy these people. And they weaponise virtue against us. They took the most caring people in our society that we lift up, our doctors and our nurses, and they have made you complicit in one of the most horrendous holocausts that's going to come out. We need you to stand up. We need you to warn the public. And don't you dare, please, tell people coming into your institution to put a mask on, which will deprive them of oxygen, which will give them viral pneumonia, which does not stop anything, will not stop a virus. It's absolutely ridiculous. But this is the dominance that comes down from the hierarchies, because they are evil. They know it will not help. They know it will hinder, it will cause harm. But there you go. Now you've got Matt Hancock and a couple of his friends. Oh, they just happen to have shares in the mask companies, making millions. And the tests that you queued up and took, they were all fake as well. Proven to be so by the man who designed the actual test. Said it doesn't work for that. But you was led to believe that it did. You was told that it was accurate. That it did show that people had this. And it was fake. You could have adjusted that test to make it find anything, and yet they convinced us all that the only remedy was to take this that was going to kill hundreds of thousands of people, when what they could have done, if they'd have been looking out for the health and well-being of the people, was to tell them the truth, like any biochemist would tell the truth and would inform your patients and the people who are all in the waiting rooms. If they were sitting in the waiting rooms of a biochemist, he would tell them to just go make sure the vitamin D levels were up and that the zinc levels were up. It's knowledge. You've had knowledge stolen from you. The GPs and the doctors do not even know how to. They've convinced everyone even that there is no cure for the common cold. It's a lie. Beechams, the ones who make Lemsip, want you to believe that a cold has got to be the most simple thing to get rid of. You need anyone that's got a nebulizer can get rid of a cold. You can load it up with the numerous compounds. I've got them in my cupboard. But this is not what the NHS is about. At the top, it's about money, it's about control, and it's about killing people. It's about keeping them in darkness. It's about keeping them sick. It's about keeping them ignorant. The last thing a pharmaceutical company wants is for a healthy population. But our NHS are loaded with some of the smartest and the brightest. How come? I can sit here and say this, and it's true. You can go and find out. You can go and find out about ozone. It will take care of any of these frightening things that have shut the country down and caused a genocide. There's nothing that ozone wouldn't have touched that could have prevented that. I use it all the time. It's time to stand up for the public, earn our respect again, earn our trust again, because we want to trust you again.